as women, as humans, as souls, could look in the mirror and instead of cataloging everything that we see that's wrong, right, put our hands on our hearts and ask that image of ourselves, what is it that I can do for you today? Thank you for carrying me through this sometimes messy life.
Welcome to Power and Purpose Within. I'm Kori Burgess, and each show we will celebrate creators, founders, authors, and people who are enjoying the career they chose, genuinely enjoying their career. Some may look unconventional to you, and that's the beauty in the celebration. Their journey could be your incentive to begin your journey. So today we celebrate Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, and Mindy is the creator of the Freedom Promise. So Mindy, welcome.
Thank you, Kori. Thrilled to be here with you.
And I just pulled up Mindy's website. So for those of you who want to go to her website, if you're listening on Spotify or on Apple, go to her website too. Mindy, you want to give them your website? We'll have it in the description, but go ahead and give them your website.
Of course, thefreedompromise.com.
Thank you. And here I see food, freedom, and body peace for women in midlife. Yay! Can we just say yes? Food, freedom, and body peace for women in midlife. She has here, reclaim your relationship with food and yourself. What a great quote, because we do. In midlife, we do forget who we are, and we forget what our bodies are really supposed to look like and what's nutritious for us. So, Mindy, I'm going to hand it over to you. So you tell us your passion and your desire of why you created this, because you are a creator.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kori. My story is really rooted in a place where I think so many women can identify. You know, for most of my adult life, I believed that my body was a problem that I needed to solve. And food became the tool, and control was always the promise. And I wasn't just struggling privately. I was working inside diet culture, teaching women the very rules that were keeping me trapped. I like to say that I was both the prisoner and the warden in a cell that I had created for myself. Yeah. And then life fell apart. You know, life has a way of intervening when we least wanted to. I was 49. I lost my husband to cancer. And my world cracked open. And the same strategies that I had been relying on to feel safe in a world that I did not always feel safe in collapsed completely. And what I've been using to cope was no longer survivable. It wasn't sustainable, and it certainly wasn't tenable. So it took me a while to get my footing. I had become at 49 years old responsible for the structure and the business of my life. I was responsible for what my daughters, of the behaviors that I was modeling for my daughters, who were young adults at the time, but we're a very close-knit family, and their loss truly weighed so heavily on me. But at 55, I made a decision that really terrified me. I walked away from the career I built. I walked away from the income. I walked away from the identity. I walked away from the client roster, and I went back to school. Not to learn at 55, not to learn another method. Yeah. But I needed to understand why women, myself being one of them, believed I needed to shrink in order to be worthy. Why I was trading the size of my life for the size of my body. And 8 years of education, became a board-certified health coach. And then I earned additional certifications in eating psychology and functional medicine nutrition. And that education changed everything. I stopped trying to control my body, and I started listening to it. And I started listening in a way that I could really decipher what those messages were telling me. And the war ended.
That's beautiful. So that's a lot to, we're gonna open up every one of those little packages you just laid out before us. Okay. Number
Okay.
one, let's start with you were the warden and the prisoner of this traditional diet cycle that we run ourselves through as women. Men do it too, but women do it more because we're more self-conscious of our bodies. You know, the dad bod is sexy. The mom bod, not so much. You know,
Yeah.
so what does
Yeah.
that look like? A warden and a prisoner.
Okay. Well, what it looked like for me was that I was so attached to the messaging that was handed down to me from and I have to say they were loving messages, right? Because so always blame the mother, but those are messages that my mother had gotten herself, right? And so messages from mother, messages from the magazine covers. Now, mind you, I said I was 55 years old 15 years ago, and I went back to school, so I can remember a time standing at the supermarket checkout line and seeing the magazine covers telling me what I needed to do to have that hot bod. Okay, so it was those messages. And then fast forward to the messages that we're getting from social media today about how we could be looking as women in midlife, how we should be behaving in order to look that way in midlife. And that also what's the word I'm looking for? It confirms the messages that our bodies need to be fixed because when we are in midlife, our bodies are changing in ways that we never gave them permission to.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Do you find though, I find that the generation now of women of our age, we share, we talk about it. So it's out there more. I never heard about menopause from my mother. That was just something that when I meet women who are my age and they say, oh, my mother talked about that, that's unusual. That just means that their mother was very natural, transparent, whatever. And it's not that my mother was holding it back. It's just that wasn't a conversation you had. And possibly because of leaving the home so young, you know, going to college and not coming back, maybe I wasn't even there. So it wasn't even a conversation that I would have. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Growing up, menopause was something that you put up with. You did your best to deal with it. It was something that happened to you. And I think we can sit back and rejoice in the fact that for many of us, if we're lucky enough, menopause is what is happening for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, and through us, as we know we're going through a process, which is a beautiful process. It's just foreign. But you know what else is a beautiful process in foreign? Having your first baby. You know, that's a beautiful process and that's foreign too. You know,
No question.
before we got on this show, I was looking at your website and again, it's a beautiful website. And I started thinking about the discussions I would have with you and the beauty of the fact that I'm on this journey, the same journey you're on here, and how lovely it is to understand we as women, we have our bodies go through so much because they're built for so much. And if we would just allow them to go through, allow it to go through and us to be on that journey with it, like you said, you have to be in tune with your body to hear it and give it grace, you know, glow in peace, grow in grace, because we're meant to, that same body that produces human beings, that same body that feeds human beings, not just produces, but feeds human beings. That's miraculous. I mean, we look at animals and we say, oh, look at that mama cub, or look at that mama, you know, calf doing, we're that same amazing body, you know? And yet we give the animals grace, but not ourselves.
No question. And if we as women, as humans, as souls,
Mm-hmm.
could look in the mirror And instead of cataloging everything that we see that's wrong, right, put our hands on our hearts and ask that image of ourselves, what is it that I can do for you today?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for carrying me through this sometimes messy life.
Right, right. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, you have a lot of, like I said, packages that I want to unwrap, so I took notes. I want you to talk about our relationship between ourself and food. What was your discovery there, and what does that look like for women? I suppose I should say that.
Well, our relationship with food is uniquely very nuanced. You know, each of us has a very unique food story, whether it be from the messages we received, whether it be from how we decide to get through a world that we don't feel safe in. And if it goes really back to the beginning, the origin story of all of this is that when we are born, when we are thrust into this big, bright, cold world, our very first experience with nurturing and nourishment is when we're held and fed. That's our very first experience and expression. And then we grow up, we develop an ego, we develop a sense of autonomy. And sometimes the world hands us lessons that teach us we're perhaps not that safe, or we interpret experiences and we deem ourselves unsafe. But the mind, the body remembers eat, feel better. And that is why so many have what becomes a very disordered, dysfunctional relationship with food, because it becomes wired in our nervous system. And that's where we go back to. Now, for some women, that plays out in restriction, in feeling that they need to control a world or a part of them that feels out of control. But the pain is always the same. So when I say it's nuanced, food is how the pain shows up, but it's not where the pain lives.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Yeah, you think about how young girls view their bodies, and it's a comparison game. Unfortunately, that's just where females are at. Females are taught to be pretty and quiet and happy and get along with everyone. And so when you find a female that doesn't particularly like something about you when you're a child, another little girl, a lot of times you want to conform so that little girl will like you, or you can be part of the team or the group, and whatever they're doing, it's that movie Mean Girls. You just want to be a part of it because you're this innocent little girl. And even though you may have great messaging at home, most of your day is spent in school. And so the messages that you get at school, if they're drowned out from the messages at home, you start to feel or you start to believe those messages. That's why it's so important and I think little boys have it too. But little boys can hit each other and it's okay. Little boys can take out their aggression. It's like, okay, you're not supposed to hit, but if you hit, you're a boy. Girls can't take out their aggression. They just push it down and they just want to be accepted. That can stream into you thinking you are who your group tells you you are. And you can grow right through school with that thinking and that thought. And before you know it, you come out of school and all of a sudden you have to be your own self and you get lost in that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And what lives underneath that pain is something about worthiness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And these are beliefs, as women in midlife and beyond, these are beliefs that we absorbed decades ago.
Yes.
As I referred to before, right? From mothers, from magazines, from a culture that decided our value could be measured in pounds.
Yes, so true. You know what, Mindy, it's interesting because I I was very fit as a kid. I was a gymnast, a cheerleader, you know, and then I went off to school in New York City. I went to FIT, so I was walking in the streets, and you know, you walk 5 miles in no time at all. And back then we carried books. So, you know, you had a backpack or you had a bag and you're carrying 5 pounds while you're walking 5 miles fast. And even if you're on a college campus, you're still in that mode. And then all of a sudden you get a job. And if you're not in the city and you're not walking around, you get a car and your body's like, whoa, you know, so your body is reacting to your lifestyle and you're wondering, what's wrong with my body? It's just, you're probably not burning those calories like you used to. And your body's just doing what the body does. But yet we're in our 20s and then we're in our 30s and we have a different body and we think we did something wrong. You know, we think our value, I don't look like I used to look. So maybe I'm not received like nobody knows that except for you. It's your own brain game.
But then there's biology involved,
Mm-hmm.
right? Those hormonal shifts that everyone talks about, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
not there to make you difficult or be difficult, right?
Right.
Right.
It's good.
Our life bodies are doing something remarkable,
They really are. Yeah.
right? They're changing, yes, but they're changing in ways that invite and require a different kind of attention.
Right. Right. Do you work with women with their hormones?
Well, I am not a hormone practitioner, but I help women understand what the hormonal shifts
Oh, good.
are doing for them. I do a lot of nervous system regulation work, a lot of stress management work,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've certainly helped women look at their gut health, which is at the root of all health,
All health it is. Yeah. Yeah.
right? What happens in the gut is reflected in what's happening everywhere in our bodies.
It shows up everywhere. Yep.
Yeah.
So tell me about your, let's see, diet culture reimagined. Are you giving women a diet culture reimagined?
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we're ditching the whole concept of diet culture.
Mm-hmm.
We're ditching the messages from ready for this, a $163 billion industry that profits off of our self-doubt. A $163 billion industry that uses the most creative marketing to convince us that we cannot trust our bodies to know what's best for them. So my work, and I've developed a framework called the 4R Freedom Method. The first R is to recognize. Recognize the voices of the inner critic. Recognize the voices that were never yours to begin with. Recognize not what is wrong with me and why am I having trouble with weight management, but why am I behaving with food this way in the first place? Because we can't change what we don't see. So that's recognize. Then we reject and release the voices that were never ours to begin with, the toxic and inflammatory beliefs and behaviors that we thought were keeping us safe, but are anything but. And once we recognize and reject and release, we can reclaim. We can reclaim our body's wisdom. We can reclaim our health. We can reclaim the proper mindset of sufficiency rather than deficiency. We can start to rewrite the story where the hero is the woman who you were before the world told you who you needed to be. And finally, we radically accept. Now, radical acceptance does not mean giving up. It does not mean throwing in the towel and saying, this is the way it is. It means this is who I am, this is my worth, and I can create the life I want. So we can radically accept and change and continue to grow at the same time.
When you're in the process with someone, with a woman in midlife, how do you get her to the place of recognizing? Is she coming to you already recognizing, or is she coming to you saying, I don't know what's going on. I just keep weight on and I'm not happy with myself. What are the words? What are the words that are coming out of your client's mouth when they first are introduced to you?
I'm doing everything that I think I'm supposed to be doing. My body is betraying me. I am eating less and moving more. I am eating this, I'm not eating that. So we start peeling the onion, right? We start going back. We do a timeline. When did things start to change? We examine the stories, the messages, and I help my client to see that she's not at fault. The system has failed her. She hasn't failed. And I allow her to accept the fact that the voice of the inner critic is perhaps louder than it needs to be.
Now, is there anything that she needs to take responsibility for, or not really, because it's all been programmed into her?
Well, that's a tough question because sure, we can say, my role in this is that I allowed myself to believe these messages. But very often, the woman who's coming to me has done the best that she could
Mm-hmm.
with what she was dealing with at the time.
Yeah, yeah. You're not
Right?
you're not working with you're not working with women who are coming to you saying, I eat a box of Twinkies every day and I don't know what's wrong with me because I'm really trying because I drink a gallon of water. They've already
Okay,
done, they've
but
already tried, they've already gone.
there are similarities. It might not be the box of Twinkies, but there are women who are perhaps eating foods, making choices that are not in their best interest.
But
But
do they
then
know it? Hold on, but do they know it?
well, they know it because it's showing up on their bodies and they're not happy
Mm,
about it. So we talk about why. We explore
mm,
their why.
why are they?
Why are they reaching for, in your
Mhm,
example, the box of Twinkies in the first place? But I have a very different approach. Instead of looking at that behavior as being resistant to change, I ask questions this way. Where's the reward in
mm,
eating that box of Twinkies?
mhm.
What is that box of Twinkies doing for you? And
Right.
that opens up a whole new discussion.
Mhm. Sure. Yeah, that's good because they're looking for a reward in some way. So how do you substitute it and find it in the right venue, in the right
It's yeah,
thing?
and the reward sometimes I hear because it tastes good, but
Mhm,
most often it's because they are filling a void.
mm,
They want to feel connected. Food was love. Food was how they comforted themselves. Food was how they celebrated. And that's,
mhm,
again, how their nervous system was wired.
mhm.
So that has to be looked
Rewind.
at
Yeah.
and rewritten and
Mhm, mhm.
reframed, really.
Sure.
It's all about
Sure.
reframing the stories. Our stories are always going to be our stories. We
Absolutely.
just have
Yeah.
to look at what part of that story we need to turn the page on.
Mhm,
And in
mhm.
some cases, we need to find a blank page
Yeah.
so we can start to write what will become our happily ever after.
Mhm. Because the story's never finished until you take your last breath. So even with the story as a challenge, when you overcome, you want that story. You aren't who you are when you're overcoming if you never have something that you can overcome. So anyone who has a life of no trials, which I don't think that exists, they would not have a story. Not an interesting. They would be. It's almost like looking at a still water still water, as opposed to water that's constantly moving. Still water, There's not a whole life in still water, but water that's even just a river, just a stream, you've got to have something moving in your life. So if you just stay in one place, you're actually dying to your possibilities. You have to go through to get to the possibilities, to get to the victory, to get to the reward. Yeah.
And we have to stop fighting. You know, the woman who has been dieting for most of her life, and that's what I hear from the women I work with the majority of the time. You know, I ask them, for how long has this been an issue for you? And invariably, the answer is, with a laugh, for my whole life. And it becomes a fight, you know, a war. The mirror becomes the battlefield, the scale becomes the judge. And when we stop fighting our bodies and start partnering with them, when the war ends, something extraordinary becomes available, right? The energy that we've been spending on food anxiety, on calculating, on compensating, the constant hum of self-judgment, that energy doesn't disappear, but it becomes available. And available for so much more, but for so much more than what we see in the mirror. Our relationships improve. We have energy for purpose. We have energy just basically for the life that we've been putting on hold until we think we get this right.
What does your client look like on the other side with the energy, with the vibrance?
The best example I can give you, I wrote in my book about a woman named Debbie. Debbie was 62 years old when she came to me. And she grew up in a loving family. She was one of many siblings. And she would talk about Sunday dinners where the table was beautifully set. And her grandmother would roll out the most perfect pie crusts. And food was love. Food was love. And as I repeated to you before, food was how they celebrated, food was how they comforted, food was how they connected. And that was wired into her nervous system. And as a young married woman, she put her career aside and raised 3 children. And at 62, when she came to me, her children, while they were grown and independent, they were still somewhat dependent on her. And each of them were going through their own struggles. And she really just never felt enough. She didn't feel enough in her career. She didn't feel enough as a parent. She was divorced. She didn't feel that she was enough in her relationships. And so you can imagine the inner dialogue that was going on. So we worked really hard on helping her to recognize why food had the role in its life that it did, what she needed to release herself from in terms of her attachment to her story and what food was doing for her, and how she started to fear what it would do to her. And as she started to release these expectations and these beliefs, she started to reclaim her worth. She could see how valuable she was and still could be, and finally accepted that she was a unique, magnificent woman worthy of so much. So the other side for her was when she texted me, actually, I'm sorry, she texted me to tell me that it was her grandson's 11th birthday party. Daughter invited her over. She had a piece of cake. She enjoyed it, and she moved on. Whereas before, she would find herself very often, 10 o'clock at night, standing in front of her freezer and reaching for a container of ice cream. So she was able to get to that point where she realized when she would reach for the ice cream, she wasn't hungry for it. What was she hungry for? She was hungry for connection. She was hungry for feeling valued. So what it looks like on the other side, it can look like enjoying birthday cake at your grandchild's birthday. It can look like a morning you forget to weigh yourself. It can look like going to lunch with friends, ordering a salad, and forgetting to ask for dressing on the side and eating it anyway. What happens on the other side is you forget to suffer.
Yeah, yeah. And do you find that this happens more for women than men?
I only work with women. So I can't answer that. I will tell you that the limited experience I have had working with men is a whole different experience. Women are willing to go through the journey. Women are willing to accept that it's a process, that it's not linear. Women are willing to go with the flow, so to speak. Men want to be told what to eat, when to eat it, and how much of it to eat. Show me the money.
Give me the list. I'll do the list. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a whole different mindset.
It is. Yeah.
With women, the journey is a very feminine experience.
That's beautiful. Talk about the Fully Nourished Circle Group membership.
The Fully Nourished Circle is my group membership where we have been exploring the 4 R's. And it's just a wonderful way for women to get together and support each other, all women in midlife, all experiencing challenges with their relationship with food, their relationship with their bodies, and we come together to learn and support each other weekly. It's really been a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I'm actually going to be opening it up for enrollment again very soon.
Now, is this a video group or is this a?
Oh, no, it's live. It's live. We meet every Thursday at 11 Eastern Time, and it's all live coaching.
That's beautiful. So you have a certain limit to how many are in the group because you're coaching them all?
Yes. And we meet for an hour, and it's really been a wonderful experience for me and the women who are a part of it. And, I learned a while ago that I personally enjoy live interaction. I no longer offer any video online programs at all. I want to work one-on-one with people.
Yeah, I can understand. That's me also. It's more intuitive then. And and you can feel the other person's reactions and you can read their body and their face and it's more, I think live is just more beautiful. We have gotten to a point where it's no longer knee to knee. I used to love knee to knee. Now unfortunately we can do live chats and things like that. But you're right. It's hard to coach someone. I mean, if you have like a package that they can just PDF download something, but it's hard to video a coaching session because they can't raise their hand and say, I have a question.
No, and especially, the issues around food and body and mindset and self-worth are so very nuanced and so bio-individual.
Yeah, personal.
And then of course, when we get to the reclaim section where we're talking about reclaiming our health, gut health also is so very individualized. Let's talk practical for a minute. You could be eating the healthiest food on earth, but your body might not agree because of the makeup of your microbiome. Right? Physiology really affects psychology as much as psychology affects physiology. So what you're dealing with emotionally, psychologically is going to have an impact on your health, whether it be your gut health, your hormone health. And then, of course, we need to look at how you're sleeping, how you're moving, how you're connecting.
Right.
Aside from how well you're eating or hydrating. So this has to be done in person, and the nuance of it all needs to be respected. Everybody's different. Therefore, my interaction with every client is different.
It's different. Have you taught the Blue Zone lifestyle?
No, I have not.
Okay. Right. That's an interesting.
And again, I don't speak to any one program. You know, I
Well, there's no program for it. It's
a lifestyle.
It's a life. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
But I speak to what is going to benefit my client most practically in the moment.
Right.
And that could go anywhere.
I'm seeing here, our relationship to ourselves is reflected in our relationship to everything else. This is something that Mindy wrote to me. Midlife is not about decline. It's about embracing the opportunity for our greatest transformation. Yes. I love that. Midlife is not a decline. It's not. I was just sharing with someone, when you're in your 20s, you think you've just got the world by the tail. And then when you're in your 30s, you're like, you know, if you're married and you have children, you're just starting off on that and you're learning to grow there. Then in your 40s, your kids are getting a little bit older and you're probably concentrating on your career. In your 50s, you're like, I guess my career is important. What am I going to do after that? In your 60s, you're like, I don't care. This is about me. You know, this is about me now. And it really should have been about you a long time ago.
Yeah, it's I'm so happy you just said that. I recently had a conversation with somebody. I'm 70.
You look
And
great.
thank you. But I am at a point in my life where
Hold on. When I say that, I don't mean it in a way that, you know, oh, you look great, like the magazines. I just mean you look great.
thank you. Well, I took it that way. I feel great.
Okay, good.
I mean,
Good. Okay.
I have an extremely peaceful relationship with my body. Not to say that I love everything that I see in the mirror, but I honor my body.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I teach. You don't have to like what you see in the mirror all the time. Loving your body does not mean liking what you see in the mirror all the time.
Right. I love that. That's so true.
Right. But loving your body means honoring it, means listening to it. Right? And listening to the whispers before their screams.
Yeah. So true.
Right.
So true.
So to the point I was going to make is that at my stage in life, with everything I've been through, all the growth, all the change, the loss, the love, I think I've earned the right to stop pushing myself out of my comfort zone. Right? I've earned the right to stay in my lane.
Say that again.
I've earned the right to stay in my comfort zone.
So true. I love it. That's so true.
Right? I don't have to prove myself anymore in every direction. And there might be people that don't agree, and that's okay. There might be people that don't like what I have to say. That's okay.
That's why we're all humans. We're all different. We all have our own space that we occupy. If you want to keep pushing, I'm there with you, sister. If you want to keep pushing yourself, you go right ahead. Bravo for you, but I'm not joining you. Yeah. And again, sometimes that happens. It's hard. It's hard for a woman to hear that in their 30s. And in reality, that's when your hormones start depleting. So you might want to start doing that in your 30s. But our society tells us, you go, girl, you push, you conquer. And meanwhile, our hormones are just depleting, just starting. And then forget about when you hit 40 and then you go through menopause and you're still pushing and your body's like, oh, can we just take a break? Your hormones are just going, hello, pay attention to me. I'm depleted. But you're right. If we would just have that, that's part of what I think of when my lifestyle in my home, my lifestyle is a Blue Zone lifestyle. My doctors have, because my doctors are you. So, and my health coach is you, but I have that. And people say to me, how do you do it? I'm like, I don't allow certain things. You don't allow. And then certain things you allow a lot. I take a nap every day because I can, and it's important to me. I just came from a trip and one of my friends said, who's known me but not since we haven't been around each other for years. And so she said, I could never take a nap in the middle of the day. I said, then don't. I said, but it's okay. I don't know how you do it. I said, it's what I need to do for me. And that's where women have to be. What do you need to do for you to be the best version of you, to live the longest, healthiest life? I mean, if you
and quality of life.
Quality, yes. But if you built
know,
this family and then you aren't there to be around them because you're sick or dead.
And what about the behavior that we're modeling for our children, for our daughters?
Yeah, right.
Right?
And even for our sons when they look for a wife. You know,
for sure. You know, it's funny. I was one of 3 daughters, and I had to have 2 daughters. And I'm blessed enough to have 3 grandsons.
Oh.
And I just love seeing how they're being taught to respect women, not only from their mothers, but from their fathers as well. You know, I'm also blessed to have 2 magnificent stepsons who are also living the same kind of quality of life. But, you know, people say all the time, life is short. You know, I feel life is too long to be unhappy.
That's good. Yeah. To be unhappy. Yeah. So tell us, what are you doing? Like, are you speaking anywhere? Where can people find you? How can people follow you? You have the website. Do you have a YouTube channel? Everything's going to be in the description, but I want you to say it.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I have a YouTube channel, The Freedom Promise Way with Mindy Gorman-Plutzer. Kori, you will have that link. Instagram, you can find me at The Freedom Promise. Kori,
I have that also. Facebook. You have Facebook.
And Facebook, The Freedom Promise.
And LinkedIn.
You can also friend me personally, Mindy Gorman-Plutzer. That's my personal Facebook page, and I love people following me there. I only share things that are worthwhile and happy.
And then you have LinkedIn in case someone wants to.
Yes. LinkedIn, Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, of course.
And the Gorman
and I have
hyphen Plutzer in LinkedIn. It's hyphened.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
and again, I'll have these in the description, but some people are listening to this on Spotify and Apple. So I also want them to, it'll be in the description, but a lot of times people are just listening while they're driving or something.
Of course. My newest book, Midlife Metamorphosis, The Journey from Diet Culture to Radical Acceptance, was released September 8th, and the response has been fabulous.
Congratulations.
I wrote this book, poured my soul onto these pages. I shared the most vulnerable parts of my journey, and vulnerable parts of the journey of women who I've coached, incredible women who have found freedom after decades of diet culture prison. This book cost me. It cost me by taking me back to places I had carefully moved past. I had to sit with the version of myself who was teaching women to restrict while I was quietly falling.
Well, you were the warden. You were the warden at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
wow.
But I wrote this book because I know that what happened to me and for the clients whose stories I shared in the book, and the hundreds of women I've had the privilege and the blessing of accompanying, can happen for any of you that are listening. You know, we are not before and after stories. It's really a question of just a quiet, irreversible coming home.
I love that. Irreversible coming home. I had a question here that you answered. It says, what joy do you find in your business or your work? Creating deeply felt AHA moments for my clients, which lead to sustainable transformation. AHA.
You know, when I'm sitting with a woman, and it might be weeks of discussion, but she finally says, I get it. I see what I've been carrying around. I understand what beliefs I can release and free myself up. Because, you know, Kori, one of the things I've been sharing for years with my clients is that true transformation is not so much about what we do to change. It's about what we let go of so we can become the change. Years ago, I was interviewed on a podcast. It was, I think, one of the first podcasts I was ever interviewed on, and I was so nervous. And I was being interviewed by a therapist who worked with women who had eating disorders, serious clinical eating disorders. And I was sharing my own story. And I something hit me as in that conversation, and I haven't forgotten it, and I've taken it into my own coaching practice now. There's a very big difference between doing and being. Whether if you're doing recovery, if you're doing healing, yeah, you're showing up, you're taking advice, you're listening to suggestions and recommendations, you're checking off the boxes. But being is when those choices are coming from a place deep within. When it becomes those choices and that deep-seated soul choice becomes your higher power. That's being. And that's when transformation is sustainable and lasting.
As you were saying that, I always use nature when I'm coaching. And when you said being versus doing, what you do is you lay the seed in the ground. But what it being becomes is when the roots take ground. When the roots happen, then you actually have the being, which is the flower or the tomato. That's the being. But the doing is just laying the seed, watering it. That's the doing of it. But the being is what we all want, is our desire is to become, be whole, be full, be present. And that being is the fruit that we carry.
And then we become the change we want to see.
Right. Right. Because people can eat from that, and that creates the change.
Yeah.
What does our fruit look like? Yeah. Sorry.
And from those roots come many branches.
Many branches. That's right. Yes.
Right? And that's how that relationship to self, which is deeply rooted, is reflected in everything else.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. This was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, your wisdom, your revelation. People, listen to this woman. Watch this woman, the revelation she brings. And share this with those women that you know are in midlife and struggling. Even if you don't know they're struggling, they might be struggling. Share it with them anyway. Thank you so much for that, Mindy. You said you're going to be opening up your club. Do you have any place that people should be finding you as far as speaking engagements?
Right now, I'm in Florida. I am doing local book talks.
Okay.
I'm in South Florida. I return to New York middle of April, and I will, whenever I have a speaking engagement, it will be posted in my social accounts.
Okay, great to know. Okay, good.
If anybody's listening and they would love to invite me to a book club, a practitioner who wants me to come talk to her group, I'd be happy to do that. I do want to say one thing about the book, though. The book was written also for practitioners to take to their groups, to take to their clients. Every chapter ends with a workbook, so to speak. And then the final chapter of the book, it's all questions for book club discussions. So the book
That's great.
is really
So a practice could buy the books and hand them to their clients, their patients
right.
or clients.
Or the practitioner can buy it and use it as a guide.
Okay.
I really wrote it hoping for that as well. And that book is available on Amazon. It's available barnesandnoble.com. And again, it's Midlife Metamorphosis, the journey from diet culture to radical acceptance.
Okay. Well, I want to thank my followers for joining us, and the guests that are on here. Continue to follow with us. And you know where I'm at, the platforms I'm at, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. But most importantly, if you're listening, jump onto Spotify and Apple. And I will continuously have phenomenal guests like Mindy on here. And I want to thank you guys for being with us. Mindy, thank you so much. Anything you want to say to the crowd before we say goodbye?
Just know that it's not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not broken. And you never need to think that you should trade the size of your life for the size of your body.
Thank you for that. Okay, everyone. We'll see you on the next podcast.